is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
Well, there are many summer playlists you won't find this song on. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Len's Steal My Sunshine. One of the biggest music stories every year is the battle to see which artist releases the song of the summer. But rarely is the winner clear-cut and decisive. For example, in 2024, which song would you say best repped the summer? Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, Post Malone and Morgan Wallen's I Had Some Help, Shaboozey's A Bar Song Tipsy, Chappell Roan's Good Luck Babe, maybe? Or Hot to Go from Chappell? In my humble opinion, the winner was Espresso. But according to its Songs of the Summer chart, Billboard decided that I Had Some Help took the honor. Debating the candidates for Song of the Summer is an annual tradition for music fans, but there is one song that I feel will always be the song of any and every summer, Steal My Sunshine by Len. Yep, despite its release way back in '99, there isn't one person on earth who can convince me that there is a song better suited for radiating summertime vibes than Steal My Sunshine. To me, and likely many millions of people, Len's hit song better exemplifies the summer season than any other song. And I'm not alone in this opinion. In 2016, music site Stereo Gum wrote that every year its staff decide on a song of the summer. However, they claim that, quote, it feels like a hollow exercise, eternally doomed to failure, because there's only one true song of the summer, the song of every summer, past, present, and future. And that song is Len's Steal My Sunshine. There you have it. Wait, Stereo Gum was only joking? Well, I'm not. I stand behind my words. So where did this champion of all songs of the summer come from? I'm about to tell you. Len was founded by Mark Costanzo, who at the time had just moved from Montreal to Toronto as a teenager. While he got involved with the local punk scene, Mark's true passion was hip-hop. Listening to Run DMC, Schoolie D, and Beastie Boys, and making beats at home with his sampler and MPC. However, Mark decided to start recording songs that more reflected what was going on in alternative and indie rock, which was thriving at the time. He decided to name the project Len after a good friend of his in high school who was, quote, the funniest dude he'd ever met in his whole life. I think that's what my old high school friends say about me. While he would never describe Len as a band, he did invite his sister Sharon to join and contribute vocals when he needed them. Eventually, she would become the second member of Len, but neither of them admittedly had much talent behind them, as they would tell Much Music's Suk Yin Lee.
You know what we did when we started recording? Because we're not really singers, right?
No.
We're not really anything.
No.
You know, we just made it in our basement, all these records. So you just sing the way you sing best, you know? And I sing with that crappy, raspy voice. You know? Because if someone says, are you a singer? I don't know. I just rasp it out.
In 1993, the siblings recorded their first album, a lo-fi effort called Superstar that saw them get some help from East Coast musicians such as Joel Plaskett, then of Thrush Hermit, and rapper Stinkin' Rich, who would later change his name to Buck65. Self-released in 1994 by Costanzo's own independent label Fun Trip, Superstar would get a boost thanks to Much Music, which played the very low-budget video for single Candy Pop. And CBC, which briefly adopted the song as the theme for its finance series for teens called Street Sense. These plugs helped Len build some buzz and even sell CD and cassette copies of the album, though the customized fun fur packaging also helped. Here are Mark and Sharon explaining the decision to dress up their music to Much Music's Suk Yin Lee.
But what about like the fuzzy package in the
that was sort of a joke at the outset. We just sort of thought it would be fun to send it out with some furry covers, and then I got started sewing them and then just couldn't stop. And
I'm allergic to it. So
yeah, the whole house was run over by it. We're all in hives, and then eventually, you know, people really caught on to it, so it made it sort of hard to keep going with it because it was what people, you know, it was like the fur and the furs. So.
Yeah.
Another album arrived in 1997, the more polished pop rock album called Get Your Legs Broke, which, like Superstar, would sell between 10 to 15,000 copies. Sharon would later tell the Chicago Sun-Times that they weren't supposed to be taken seriously. We were a joke band. We'd show up at a gig and there would be 4 stoners and 10 people who were alcoholics or something. Eventually, it got to the point where industry people would come out. We couldn't understand why people were cramping our style with seriousness. Playing guitar and making more rock-based music was wearing thin on the Costanzos, though. While they found it easy to make, it wasn't of much interest to them to play. So they decided to completely overhaul the sound of their music. Here's Mark telling the New Music's Byron Wong what made Len change their sound.
I guess in '93 we made the first Len record. At that time I was making beats. You know, I had my sampler. And Brian from Hip Hop Group was showing me how to make beats. I mixed their record for the first time. I was into hip hop like for 3 or 4 years before that. And then me and Sharon decided we were gonna play some rock stuff. I guess it was rock, you can call that. And we went into playing shows as an indie rock group, or whatever, pop, punk, or whatever.
I still have a fuzzy green cassette.
We went on the indie rock tip for one reason only, is that all the hip hop dudes, my whole crew was telling me that's what I should do, right? Because that's what I did best. At that point, I didn't make a lot of beats. I can't believe that. That actually looks good on you, drunk. So, yeah, my whole crew was basically telling me that me and Sharon, they said, because we played a couple songs on guitar and everyone was saying you should play that. So we put this band together. We didn't know how to play, remember? When we put it live, no one knew what to make of it. And we used to just smash the guitars after like 5 or 10 minutes, you know? People used to show up to see that. It was funny. But then after, like in 95 or 96, we decided, by that point I was making a lot of beats, and I had a lot of beats, and I was producing a lot of hip-hop. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. Sharon said the same thing. We just couldn't do rock music anymore. We don't listen to it, so, ever, you know? So, it's fun to play.
Yeah.
Well, that was the point. It was fun to play. So we played it, and then we stopped playing it because it was just... I smashed my last guitar, and at that point I didn't have any more money, so we just decided we had to do something else. And I had a sampler, and I was making beats. The weird thing about it is I think we never really listened to the music. When we were making rock music, we weren't really listening to that kind of stuff. So it was like... So in our brains, it's been always the same, right? Just making whatever we feel like. And the beats just happened to come out on this record, on the major record. On the major label, the beats came out, so that's confused a lot of people, because when they hear the last record, they're saying, oh, you guys came out with a major album and tried to make beats for, to sell records or whatever it was.
A change in musical direction was on the horizon for Len, and it was all because of a trip Mark Costanzo made to Halifax in the early 90s. There he met members of the local hip-hop scene, specifically a trio called Hip Club Groove, who had released an album through Sloan's Murder Records called Trailer Park Hip Hop. That album garnered a lot of attention across college radio and found the group included in the burgeoning East Coast music scene. Mark found himself hanging out with Derek D-Rock McKenzie, Corey Check Love Shaquille Bowles, and Brian DJ Moves Higgins, and eventually they would team up to tour Canada. Mark even offered to release Hip Club Groove's next album, Land of the Lost, on his label Fun Trip. At the same time, Mark was mentoring an up-and-coming pop-punk band from Ajax, Ontario called Sum 41, whose self-titled cassette would be released by Fun Trip. But if you want to hear more on that, check out the episode of Encore where we take you behind Sum 41's anthem Fat Lip. But working with members of Hip Club Groove helped Mark shift the focus of Len's music toward more of a laid-back, old-school hip-hop party vibe. So he invited them to join him and Sharon in Len, along with new members Planet P, aka Kudu 5, and the Drunkness Monster. More of a crew than a band, the new lineup would completely reinvent Len. Getting some strong feedback from people they knew in the music industry, Len were offered a record deal with the Walk label, a Sony imprint that had scored big with albums by Fiona Apple, Jamiroquai, and another Toronto artist, trip-hop musician Espresso. Mark would credit the label for seeing the group's vision and for letting them do whatever they wanted and be whatever they wanted to be. One of the first songs Len worked on was one that came to Mark in 1996 while he was partying at a rave. He would tell Stereo Gum, I was at an outdoor electronic music festival up north, like a rave, and I just got caught up in the night. The song is about how I felt, and then it was exaggerated by the fact that I'm sitting in the middle of a field looking at the stars about 1,000 feet away from the stage, watching everybody dancing at 3 a.m. And I wrote part of it on my leg and a lot of it on a napkin. Mark would share that anecdote countless times for years to come, but in an interview with Much Music's Rachel Perry, he would confirm that raving really was a source of inspiration for him.
People think it's a made-up story, but I was just sitting at a rave a long time ago, 2 years ago, and it just came up. Really, it's like we don't really write songs; we just come up with things, you know.
Right.
So we just came up with Sunshine.
And like, we're happy we did.
I barely remember, but it happened. That's good, yeah.
With lyrics written on his leg and a napkin, Mark went to an after-party following the rave with his friend Brendan Canning, a Toronto musician who at the time was just about to form his own band you may have heard of, Broken Social Scene. Mark credits Brendan for playing him the record that would become the song's foundation, an old disco favorite by the Andrea True Connection called More, More, More. You know, how do you like it? How do you like it? That song actually topped the Canadian singles charts in July 1976 and was considered a genre staple, but there was something about it that clicked for Mark. As soon as he heard it, it was an aha moment. He would tell Sound of the Signals, "I remember jumping up, freaking out, and right away looping it on the MPC 60. That was pretty well it. Over the next few days, I recorded it in my bedroom. Mark threw some vocals over the sample, which isn't the main part of More, More, More itself, but if you fast forward to the 2-minute and 30-second mark of the song, you'll hear it. But Mark didn't immediately do anything with the song. He wasn't even sure if it was a song and thought they'd leave it off the next Len record. He kept the master tape reel of it under his bed for a year and a half where it would gather dust. Until one day, he played it for a friend at Columbia Records who proceeded to freak out over it. The song was then mixed and on its way to becoming a hit. Although he was never a fully fledged member of Len, Brendan Canning's involvement wasn't just in playing Mark the song that would spark inspiration. He was also asked to freestyle some words that would play at the beginning of the track, as per the label's suggestion that the song needed some kind of intro. He would tell CBC that he was paid $2,500 for his little speech, which he would use to buy guitar pedals to record Broken Social Scene's debut album. In an interview with Beta, Canning would explain his minor role.
Len is the band who wrote the song "Steal My Sunshine." That you can, if you're in North America, you can hear it in Tropicana ads currently.
Oh, right.
But it was like it's the biggest song of my career. Also.
Yeah.
If you're going to gauge it in those kind of terms.
Yeah.
But it's far from my greatest success. But that was just accidental. You know, we had me, Mark from Len, Greg, who was in Treble Charger. If you remember that. This is very Canadian centric. But yeah, we had like this little side band going. And then I accidentally ended up in Len.
Once Mark and Sharon had cut their vocals, they took the demo to Los Angeles to have it mixed at Madonna's one-on-one studios by the Dust Brothers, a duo best known for producing Beastie Boys, Beck, and a song you might know called Mbop by Hanson. Produced by Mark's alias Mumble C, not to be confused with his other alias, Burger Pimp, Len had a song that sounded like a hit called Steal My Sunshine. Mark was hard at work on a new Len album when work called, his label I mean. They had secured the rights to the soundtrack of a cool new action comedy called Go that starred a bunch of young hot actors like Sarah Polley, Katie Holmes, and a pre-fame Melissa McCarthy. Along with No Doubt, Air, and Fatboy Slim, Steal My Sunshine would make its debut both in the film and on the album. Released on March 30th, 1999, the Go soundtrack would prove to be a hit, even bigger than the film itself. That was mostly because of Steal My Sunshine, which quickly was becoming a hit. Here is D-Rock telling Much Music's Rick the Temp about the impact the soundtrack had on the song.
It's all working out. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the album would have done as well if that hadn't.
Is that right? Yeah.
Happened. Yeah.
Kudo 5, you're gonna say something down there?
I was just saying.
You're the floor, man. You have the lab on you.
I was just gonna say it's better that it came out that the song came out on the soundtrack first.
Yeah.
It's a good intro, definitely.
Thanks to its inclusion on Go, MTV and Much Music put the music video in rotation. Now, about that video. Len had a vision in mind, but they didn't think their label would approve their request. But as it turns out, if you ask, you shall receive. The plan was to go down to Daytona Beach in Florida with every friend they could think of, buy obscene amounts of booze, rent some scooters, and just party their asses off. But also capture it on camera and turn that into a music video. The label said, sure, why not, and gave Len a reported $160,000 to do as they pleased. Here's Mark telling the New Music's Byron Wong about it.
Well, we decided that when we signed the record deal, first of all, we were going to have our own videos, right? So we get to produce and direct our own videos. So, Jeff and Joran at Work Group said, okay, what do you need to make a video? And we said, this amount. And I said, what's the concept? And we told them, they're like, okay, so you get, what's the storyboard? There's no storyboard. Where are you going to shoot? At Daytona. Who you bringing? Your friends? What's your crew? And I put together Brad Walsh and Richie Carrot and all those guys. And that was it. And we just brought some cameras. We shot on Pan-Airy so we can carry the camera around. And we just got a lot of liquor and a lot of our 22 of our best friends. Stayed at the Hilton. We're banned forever.
Are you? What happened?
Oh, I don't know. Everything happened, man. I can't even tell you.
Oh, man. Remember how, like, we knocked the fucking... the railing right off of the deck. Pulled the railings like right out of the elevators. Just like left messes. We were like, there's so many beer bottles and empty booze bottles. They just stopped cleaning our rooms. They're like,
yeah, they won't even clean our rooms.
Yeah.
They wrote notes.
Yeah,
like the cleaning.
Saying we're not cleaning up after you.
It was amazing. Anyway, so
amazing.
Yeah. So when I went with the crew, because our crew wasn't really used to us, right? Like me directing a video, I was just like, they're like, okay, we'll shoot from like 8 in the morning to 10 at night, and I was like, 1 to 4. You know, we'll shoot for 3 hours.
It's a good work schedule.
Yeah, and they were like 3 hours. I was like, yeah, 3 hours, you know. And we did that we shot for 4 days, and we just come up with ideas. We go, let's rent some Sea-Doos tomorrow. Yeah.
As they would tell Rick the Temp, shooting the video was really just a vacation for them and all their friends. But unfortunately, not all scooters in the video were unharmed.
It was the best vacation we've ever had.
It was just a vacation.
Vacation/video shoot?
You guys are playing a vacation video.
Is that all we're doing?
Yeah. That's all it is.
And you got paid,
There's no
you got paid
storyboard,
for that
there's
as well.
nothing.
We somehow convinced these people to give us money to do a video.
Yeah.
And we somehow convinced them to fly in about 25 of our friends from all over Canada.
Is that right?
That's exactly what happened.
So anyway.
I directed it with one of my friends, B-Rad. And
Very nice.
we produced it,
And you didn't wipe out on those Vespas, right?
Sean and Richie.
mopeds.
Yeah, actually,
you did.
Our man Fritz the Cat took a big chunk out of one.
Yeah.
Ouch! Out of his.
Out of the scooter.
Out of the scooter.
out of mine into a wall. No, it was a post.
Now, do we have that? Is that in the video? Can we see that?
Yeah, you can see it.
We can see it.
See.
Okay. Well,
But
tell us.
if you watch the go-karts,
Yeah.
I got damaged in one of the go-karts.
There's pants down and stuff in the video. You look really hard.
There's pants down in the video.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to look at that. Right?
With all of its rowdy fun and decadence, the music video for Steal My Sunshine played a large part in it making a hit. The song reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 8 on the UK singles chart, and naturally number 1 in Canada. The song cleaned up at the 99 Much Music Video Awards, with Len taking home Best Video, Best Pop Video, and Favourite Canadian Video, which for some reason was presented to them by Paul Stanley of Kiss. At the 2000 Juno Awards, Steal My Sunshine was nominated for Best Single, which it definitely should have won, but lost out to the Tragically Hip and their cottagecore anthem, Bob Cajun. One of the stranger things to come from Len's fame was confusion about Mark and Sharon. Many people thought they were a couple, not siblings. Mark would tell Sookie and Lee that it was a question he would always get.
People always wonder, you know what? The biggest question we always get is why. Because we walk down the street like this. And people be like,
I know.
Sick. Oh, come on. It's my sister, man. You know what I mean? Like, I got to live with her every day because we didn't expect to be this big.
Yeah.
And then so we went, we did it, and now we got to be friends.
Are
We
you
have no
best
choice.
friends?
Otherwise, we'd fight. We'd fight. We really would. Just like that, fight.
Best friends considering.
Yeah.
That must be weird.
With Len all of a sudden blowing up, Work decided to push up the release date for their next album, and in one of the biggest no-brainer decisions ever, Len decided to include Steal My Sunshine, despite initial hesitation.
Past the first single, and boom, it's a whole different world going on that disc.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different world, but the second single is going to be bigger than the first one.
Those famous last words you heard right there were brought to you by DJ Moves. Unfortunately for Len, there would be no bigger second single. Released on May 25th, 1999, You Can't Stop the Button Rush was the big major label success that Len had dreamt about. Everything was done on their own terms, including the album's artwork, a comic book-style drawing of Len that was drawn by their friend Drazen. Mark would tell Sound in the Signals, "We actually got a friend who was an animator for some big TV cartoon shows at the time to do it for us. I just remember saying to Sharon how funny it would be if we became cartoon characters. We say a lot of funny things all the time, but I guess we followed up on that one. We're just a bunch of regular weirdo moose-loving Canadians, so that was a good way to make us all look like superstars." I definitely remember at one point trying to take a picture for the cover and thinking, well, those two faces aren't going to sell any records, so we went with the cartoon. But the label wasn't down with it at all. At all. One interesting fact about the album cover, rapper Buck65, who contributed to earlier Len recordings, was actually included in the illustration on the cover despite not being part of Len. He was asked, but turned them down. And it seems like he was the only one to turn Len down, considering they just about invited everyone they knew to contribute on the album, including CC DeVille, guitarist of hair metal band Poison. While the album would go on to sell more than 2 million copies worldwide, the reception by both critics and fans didn't really reflect sales. As an album, the fact that there was no other Steal My Sunshine didn't help. Instead, the band chose to make almost every song on the record sound different from what came before and after it. It would go from syrupy pop music to hyperactive hip-hop to slippery funk to bratty alt-rock to big beat electronica and German electro. That second single DJ Moves predicted would be bigger than Steal My Sunshine, that would be Feelin' Alright, a jokey pop-punk song that wouldn't even get to sniff the charts. But Len weren't fazed by the criticism or potential failure of the album. Here they are with Much Music's Bill Wilichka.
If you want to return it, you can return it to me and I'll give you your money back personally.
Years later, Mark would tell Stereo Gum how he actually felt about the album, admitting that a lot of it's terrible. But no matter what bumps in the road they faced, Len were touring the world, performing Steal My Sunshine and living their best lives. They knew their success wouldn't last forever. Here they are telling Much Music's Rachel Perry about their expectations.
You know, it's not our focus of our lives, Len, you know, we all do other things, so we're coming together to do a record. And we're all having a good time. It's the best summer we've had all together forever. We're in a bus traveling around the country and in the States. We're playing Letterman with your best friends. Come on. How can that not be a good thing?
Oh, it doesn't get much better than that, eh?
I know. And if it ends tomorrow, you know what? We had the best summer of our lives, to tell you the honest truth.
You know what? That makes me really happy to hear you guys say that. We're lucky people.
We're lucky. We're lucky, and we're lucky that people actually, people are, you know, to say it bluntly, people are buying our CDs, you know, and it's helping us have a really good time. You know, and it's thanks to everybody, because it's
Len would take their partying on the road throughout 1999 and 2000, joining the Edgefest tour across Canada with headliners Hole, Silverchair, and a who's who of Canadian rock, including Moist, Finger 11, and Big Wreck. However, it was one performance in Alberta at the Calgary Stampede where Len's non-stop party would literally be shut down by the police. Here they are telling Much Music's Bradford Howe about what happened.
Well, we have been officially banned from the Calgary Stampede.
For life.
For life.
Wow.
Brad for life.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So you might say they stopped the bum rush.
Yeah.
Or at least...
It was the cattle call. The cattle call.
Right. They at least preempted the bum rush.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you got banned because you...
It was like our set had already started.
Okay.
DJs were up doing their thing, and we kind of get bullied all of a sudden by with fines, per swear word.
Like $500 per swear word, and we're not into being bullied. So my man BP, he went on to say expletive, suck my expletive several times, and we, here we are being banned from the Calgary Stampede.
I think we're gonna make it straight now. Calgary and the fans were awesome.
Yeah,
the show,
they're dope.
we were in the middle of rocking a really cool show, and it was sad. We wanted to keep going, but so we'll give props to the fans of Calgary.
There was cops with cowboy hats, all it was like a scene from the Blues Brothers. They're all standing on the side, just they totally cut off our set, 50 minutes early. It was quite a scene.
I think that was a lot of the problem too. They expected 10 Steal My Sunshine songs, and they should have did the research a bit better. That we're more of a hip hop crew that comes in and just rocks the crowd instead of just.
Dropping by Much Music a few months later, Mark and Sharon recounted their whirlwind year to VJ, Suki and Lee with their tongues planted firmly in cheeks.
It was what, a year?
What was?
That whole thing.
Our fame?
Yeah.
The joyride?
We made it #1 in Europe, in America, here.
Australia. Mexico.
So we toured Europe.
Yeah.
We toured the U.S. and we did a whole bunch of shows with Ricky Martin and Enrique Iglesias. Oh yeah, booze, right? You know what I mean? We had the closet. He had the room the size of this place right here.
Were you seduced by the lifestyle? Is it all that it's cracked up to be?
It's funny.
It's funny.
You meet some funny people. They're not going to be your best friends for the rest of your life, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, what do you come away with all that? Do you feel like you sort of go into that area and come back, and then what are you left with after all that sort of dazzling
stuff. You're not given anything, so you're not left with anything. You know what I mean? Like your normal life, as long as you like your normal life is normal. I ride. I live up the mountains half the year. Sharon just travels, but she's done it before, so it's like, so by the end of it, you just got money.
Yeah.
And a couple friends and a lot of memories of fighting people and screaming at people and hanging on to Robbie Williams' leg and punching him in the gut. Remember that?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Len, their fun journey of 1,000,000 miles was about to end. In 2000, Len's label, Work, ceased operations, and they were shuffled within the major label system, eventually ending up on EMI Records. Their new label didn't hear a single hit in any of the music Len had recorded, and they were dropped shortly after. The version of Len that found them their stardom was over. Some members left, while Mark and Sharon still kept writing and recording new tracks. Mark would tell the Toronto Star, "It wasn't a hard decision. We just realized that everything we're not anymore. We made a choice to walk away from it rather than try to keep living that same moment over and over again. That was one of the reasons we had the luxury to say, let's stop so we can do the things we really want to." They secured a deal with DreamWorks that would prove to be so short-lived, their next album titled We Be Who We Be wouldn't even see a release. Promo copies were sent out to the media in 2002, but the album was shelved. 3 years later, they released a slightly different version of that album with an indie label under a new name, Diary of the Madmen, but it was forgotten as soon as it came out. Mark would tell Aesthetic magazine, "With Diary of the Madmen, we were just trying to figure ourselves out again after a song like Steal My Sunshine, which ruled my life, where I couldn't walk down the street without somebody screaming in my face. It starts to take over a bit." In 2008, Mark posted a message on Len's MySpace page saying, "It looks like we're not going to make another Len record. Just couldn't get it and everyone together." While Len were officially split up, the Costanzos continued to make music, but they took a 7-year break before releasing their next album, It's Easy If You Try. Back on EMI, the album didn't move the needle all that much for Len, but as Mark would tell the Toronto Star, "We're not putting out an album because we're trying to sell 1,000,000 records, we're putting it out because it feels good." At the same time, he was questioning why Len had been written off as a one-hit wonder. He would tell Aesthetic magazine in 2012, "The one-hit wonder thing is difficult to understand because, in one sense, people are saying that if you only made one hit song, you have to quit music because of that. What do you want me to do? Quit because I'm not going to have another huge hit? We're never going to win the lottery again, but why can't we just keep going?" As it turned out, Len would not keep going. While Mark has never officially called time on Len, he has since moved on, launching a company called Inside Music Nashville that works in catalog publishing rights. When asked by Stereogum in 2016 if there would be any more Len releases in the future, he said, "No, I don't think so. I mean, we haven't really talked in a while, me and my sister, but if we ever do make an album, it's going to be an acoustic thing, because that's what I'm doing right now. I bet if I started just making songs by myself like that again and digging deep, it's just not going to be some Starbucks fucking kind of shit. It would be interesting for me to get that deep into myself again and could be really bad." Despite turning a quarter century old in 2024, Len's Steal My Sunshine still continues to hold on to its relevance in the modern music landscape. Every summer it creeps into playlists that best capture the season. You better believe I have it at the top of Miles' summertime bangers. Rolling Stone said it best when it placed the song at number 2 on its list of 99 best songs of 1999, just behind TLC's No Scrubs, calling it the most perfect of all summer hits from the hottest summer ever for Top 40 radio. Len never had a second hit, and nobody cared. Not even them, because there's no way to improve on this one. Mark Costanzo himself can't believe its longevity. In 2014, he told Sound in the Signals, "All I can say is that it's awesome to make a song in your bedroom and say whatever you want to say in whatever way you want to say it, and somehow it ends up on the radio. Even crazier is that it's still being played 15 years later. I mean, just the fact that a raspy-voiced Canadian with his sister singing completely the opposite, talking about whatever the hell he was feeling after too long of a party, singing over a disco beat that a porn star originally sang on, actually made it to radio. Well, that's some shit." Steal My Sunshine has become a go-to song in all walks of pop culture in recent years. In a 2020 interview with SOCAN's World and Music magazine, Mark estimated that he has approached about 30 to 50 times a year for the past 5 years, I haven't had to say no to anything. It's generally just cool, fun shit. All the summer commercials. It has since made appearances in episodes of South Park, American Dad, and Mr. Robot, and soundtracked a Tropicana commercial, a natural fit. Heck, even Canada's own Tim Hortons came a knocking in 2024 to license the song for its summer beverage campaign. And let's not forget about where Steal My Sunshine might boast its greatest significance at karaoke bars across the world. Even Mark admitted to Stereo Gum that he's gone up and sang his own song at least once, saying, I went to karaoke last week and I did it. It's funny, because it doesn't seem like me, you know? I'm singing it and I'm going, holy shit, I can do the voice perfectly. And it's just like, is this really me? Did I really sing this fucking song? I mean, I love the fact that it still makes me a fortune every year and the royalties are incredible. And that no one's even pushing it to make money. It just happens. I don't even understand how people relate to it. When I listen to that song, I just can't make sense of it. Because there's nothing right about that song. The elements are all wrong. But that's why I love it so much. I still love it to this day. Because I listen to it and I go, I don't know what happened, man. It's like a perfect storm of the weirdest shit. Okay, I'm sold. Anyone want to join me for some karaoke? Though I need a mark, because I'm definitely the Sharon of the two when it comes to singing this song. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Len's Steal My Sunshine. On Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.